Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Thompson Precision. We're delighted to have you here, and we're especially delighted at the opportunity to introduce you all to Greg Gianforte, our next governor.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome and for everybody. It's great to be back in the Flathead. We did a little traveling around the state today, but I didn't want to kick off this first day of the announcement without being here in the Flathead with our friends. So thank you for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. I want to recognize my wife Susan of 27 years. Many of you know Susan. She's a tremendous partner, and in a very real sense, I wouldn't be able to stand here today if it wasn't for her, so thank you, sweetheart. So, you should have seen us when we were just getting started. Susan and I had my son Adam is here as well. Here he is, over here. He's the unicyclist. So when we were just getting started, we had 3 little boys, mostly in diapers. Susan was pregnant with our 4th child, Rachel, and we loaded them all in the back of our Ford Bronco, and many of you are parents, you know what that's like, and then drove thousands of miles to our new home in Bozeman, Montana. And I first fell in love with Montana 40 years ago when I came here and spent time in the backcountry hiking around. And Susan and I came here because this is where we wanted to raise our family. And all those years ago, the home we moved into in Bozeman, Montana is still the home we live in today. It's also the home where we started our small business called Right Now Technologies. And you see, back in the 90s, we had this idea that the internet could possibly remove geography as a constraint in where you locate a business. And people said, Greg, you can't start a global technology business in a rural state like Montana. And Susan and I chatted and we said, well, we're going to give it a try anyway. And over a period of time, that business that we started in the extra room of our home grew to over 1,100 employees with an average wage in Bozeman of almost $90,000 a year. And it was then, and Oracle, the company that purchased our business, is now still the largest commercial employer in Bozeman. And the lesson we learned from that experience was very clear. And that is, when you combine a Montana work ethic with good leadership, anything is possible. And I think that's a lesson that was learned at Semitool as well. But here's what was so amazing. As we created those high-wage jobs in Gallatin Valley, they created other jobs in construction and in real estate and in restaurants and in retail. And we also got a lot more airline flights to more cities as the economy strengthened. In fact, in 2014 in Gallatin Valley was responsible for 40% of all the wage growth in the entire state. And I have to say, I am very proud to have been part of making that happen. And I want to be really clear. These jobs were created through innovation, hard work, and faith, not government programs or handouts. So, people have asked me why I'm exploring a run for governor, and that's very simple. I think we share something with many Montana parents, and that is Susan and I would like to have our kids around the table on Sunday afternoon. And I personally, as a dad, would like to be able to go to my grandkids' ball games and recitals. And unfortunately, Montana ranks 49th in the country in wages, and too many of our young people have to leave today. I want all Montanans to have opportunities for high-wage jobs so that they can stay here and thrive in Montana.
Yeah.
The reality, though, is that Montana is facing some real challenges. Last year alone, we lost jobs in the Bakken, and I know here in the Flathead, the fact that we've lost over 500 timber jobs continues to impact us. We've lost jobs in mining, and we've lost rail jobs. And just this month, nearly 100 Crow tribal members were furloughed. And it's all because Washington, D.C. is relentlessly assaulting our natural resources and our state sovereignty. And you see, in Washington, they think a prairie chicken is more important than your job. And unfortunately, there's at least one politician in Helena who's too chicken to stand up to him. And unfortunately, there's more sobering news from the federal government and the state. Environmental extremists. If Barack Obama's costly power plan is put in place, we're going to lose another 7,100 high-wage jobs in the state. Every one of our electric bills will go up by 16%, and we're going to take another $1.5 billion hit to our state economy. This combination of events, according to the University of Montana, will be the single largest catastrophic economic event in 30 years in Montana. Unfortunately, the Bullock administration takes its cue from Washington. And by continuing to deny and delay job-creating permits, we're shutting jobs down, like Otter Creek and the Bull Mountain Mine. Recently, nearly 60 people lost their jobs, men and women, and they had to come home and tell their families at Christmas time because a permit was denied. And I could go on, but here's the point. Montana needs new leadership. And on top of lost jobs, we've got a governor who's failed to deliver on infrastructure. In Culbertson, and we were just out in eastern Montana today, do you know an individual single-family home spends $1,200 a year for water? And because of a lack of leadership in Helena, those bills are going up another 18% this year. But while the governor's failed to deliver on infrastructure, he has managed to grow the size of government. In fact, it's increased by 20% just in the last 3 years. Imagine if he gets another 4 years in office, what he'll do. Here's the legacy of the Bullock administration. Costs for every Montana family have gone up. Government's getting bigger, and jobs are going away. Working families are hurting, and those on fixed income are getting hammered. I'll give the governor credit for one thing, though. He's consistent. Montana is consistently at the bottom of the nation in wages. And if it wasn't for Mississippi, we'd be dead last. We are dead last in jobs for millennials, our young people. So is it any surprise, really, that our most precious export has become our kids? You know, I think we've all had enough. We've had enough of empty suits that are more worried about their job than your job. We've had enough of these political insiders whose policies are driving our kids out of the state. And we've had enough of these bureaucratic caretakers who have left Montana stuck in last place. I'm here to tell you, Montana can prosper again. I'm an optimist with confidence that the Montana work ethic and the ingenuity of the people in Montana can help us thrive. I'm a businessman who knows how to create attract, and retain high-wage jobs. And I'm a pragmatist who believes that streamlining regulations and lowering taxes will lead to a thriving economy again. And I'm a Montanan who wants Helena to have strong and innovative leadership. And that's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for the governor of Montana. And in this election, Montanans are going to have a very clear choice. We can stay with the current administration and expect more of the same, or we can change the way we do business in Montana. We'll focus on a positive message and bold ideas. Ours will be a campaign of opportunity and potential. And we owe this to all Montanans, especially our veterans who have so valiantly served our country.
Amen.
And we'll do it with a firm conviction that long-term high-wage jobs can only be created in the private sector, not by government programs. And we will win.
Yeah.
So as governor, I'll bring a new approach. First, I'll focus on removing barriers to creating jobs. And I'll do so in all sectors of our economy, starting with natural resources, all the way through to high technology.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Yep. Next month, we're kicking off a regulation roundup. And we're going to wrangle up all the job-killing regulations that are hurting Montana families. And if I'm elected governor, we're going to put them out to pasture. Second, I will fight every day to streamline government and lower taxes. Steve Bullock vetoed 3 tax reduction bills this last year alone. I think, Bruce, you had a big hand in sponsoring one of those, and it was a good piece of legislation. And he did that while sitting on almost $500 million of overpaid taxes. That's your money. And he did nothing about the business equipment tax. It's sad, really, because he thinks it's government's money. Well, rest assured, I know it's your hard-earned money.
Yeah.
Third, I'll restore competency and accountability and a culture of customer service to state government. I'll appoint industry leaders as in our state agencies and commissions. Now, we have hardworking employees in the state government, and they're dedicated, but they need new leadership. I will appoint an industry leader, an industry person in charge of DEQ, and I will find a landowner to run DNRC. And how about this? At the Department of Labor, let's find someone who's actually had an employee.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Bullock's been a Helena politician his whole life, which may explain why he looked the other way when there are 125 accounting errors. It's been called a $1 billion mistake. Well, that should have turned some heads. Yet, no one got fired. No one even got reprimanded. It's a stunning combination of incompetence and complacency. Number 4, I'll lead the charge to prepare our young people for the good-paying jobs of the future. A well-rounded education is imperative for all of our students. We have great schools and even greater teachers, but we can do more, particularly in our rural communities. One example, Montana needs computer science in every high school. That's why I helped start the Code Montana program, because if we don't teach our young people how to author technology, they won't be in control of their future.
Right.
We also need more focus on trade skills. That's why we started the Gianforte Manufacturing Scholarship Program, because not every young person has to have a 4-year degree to be successful. I also believe strongly that parents should have more say in how their kids are educated. My goal in education is to help every young person reach their full potential. I think that's a goal we should all be able to agree upon. It's also a goal we have a moral obligation to pursue. Finally, I'll work to find ways to maintain the quality of health care in Montana, especially in our smaller towns. But also, we must work to reduce costs while maintaining that quality. The Bullock-Obama one-size-fits-all approach is expensive. And given the double-digit rate increases in healthcare costs this past year, it's undeniably not working. I believe we also have a responsibility to partner with our tribal communities to help them build their economies so they can thrive as well. I'm a sportsman and a lifetime member of the NRA. Last year, Steve Bullock vetoed 2 gun rights bills. One would have expanded concealed carry in Montana, and the other would have stood up to the Obama gun grab. These bills were passed by our House and our Senate. He's clearly no friend of gun owners. When I'm elected governor, I will defend our Second Amendment rights. Now, you probably all know a farm family. They have a few kids, maybe 3 kids, and you know how it typically plays out in Montana. One gets the farm, and the other 2 have to leave. And it's tragic, really, and it's a huge negative impact on our smaller communities. But with a concept called telecommuting, those other 2 kids can stay and work over the internet for national or international firms and thrive right here in Montana. And in June of last year, I started promoting this concept to bring our kids home and help our rural communities thrive again. We mailed invitations to Montanans who had left the state because they couldn't find work here, inviting them to come home and bring a job with them. And you know, Montanans do want to come home. We just need to give them away. Let me tell you a short story. I was in Butte recently, and a nice woman came up to me and gave me an unexpectedly big hug. It was Sue Euland, and she said, you know, my daughter, Jennifer, got one of your invitations to come home. She was living on the West Coast, and she sat down with her husband, and they had a conversation. And one of them said to the other, honey, why can't we do this? And then Sue looked at me with a tear in her eye, and she said, now my grandbabies are back in Montana. I think it's kind of cool. And to Sue and all the Montana families who want to see their kids more than once or twice a year, I'll make this promise. I will wage an all-out campaign to put our families back together. Well, Susan and I have been incredibly blessed. And we're ready to roll up our sleeves and go to work serving Montana. When I'm elected governor, I'm pledging that we will donate our entire salary to charity, to a governor's scholarship fund, because that's one more way that we can serve.
Yeah.
So now I have a few questions, and I'd love to get your answers right here in real time. The first is, will you join me in creating high-wage jobs in Montana so our kids don't have to leave? Will you join me in rounding up burdensome regulations and lowering taxes so we can grow our economy again? Will you join me in bringing accountability and a culture of customer service back to state government? And finally, will you join me in giving Steve Bullock a pink slip? Thank you, and I welcome you and thousands of others of all walks of life to this campaign. We need, honestly, every single one of you. We need you out there every day, talking to friends and neighbors, ringing doorbells, writing letters, and seeking every single vote. And I want you to be certain of this. I will campaign every day with the determination and energy that's in this room right now. And I will campaign with compassion as big as the big sky. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Montana.
Hi, I'm Greg Gianforte. And just like you, I know too many Montanans who've had to leave because they can't find a job opportunity. But it does not have to be that way. Because when we pair big, forward-thinking ideas with hardworking Montanans, the sky is the limit. When folks said we couldn't do it here, my wife and I started a business in our home that ultimately created over 500 high-paying jobs for Montanans. Because we weren't afraid of thinking big and pursuing a bold idea with the people we trust in the state we love. I'm a job creator, not a politician who thinks government has all the answers. But I do know Helena thinks too small. And that's exactly why we can't wait for them to solve this problem. I'm Greg Gianforte, and I'm running for governor because we owe it to every Montanan who wants to come home and to our children to create opportunities so that they can raise their families here